Hi and welcome to this week's Spark AR tutorial. This is the second part in a series where we're taking drawings that we've made, turning them into an animated 2D Spark AR filter, and now this week we'll be turning them into a 3D animated Spark AR filter. So in this week's tutorial we'll be taking our drawings into Blender, creating 3D objects with them, and then taking those 3D objects into Spark and creating our filter. So let's get to it. So for this week's tutorial what you're going to need is Adobe Illustrator, Blender and Spark AR. I'll leave links to all of those programs in the comments below so you can go find them if you haven't already got them. We're going to be using Illustrator to create our scalable vector graphics. We're going to be using Blender to change those scalable vector graphics into 3D objects, and then we'll be creating our filter in Spark AR. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you're getting anything valuable out of this video, it would be a real help to me if you'd hit the like and subscribe button, and then I can make more of these for you. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a 3000 by 3000 pixel canvas, and then we will open that up and go to Finder or your files. Now we're going to select all of the layers that we used in the last video. All of these files are going to be available in the description below, so don't worry about that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to align them centrally and align them vertically, and then we're going to change them all to 3000 by 3000 pixels. We can resize them all here. It doesn't really matter what size they are now because we'll probably just go ahead and resize them in Blender when we take them into Blender, but it's nice to just have them aligned at the moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to image trace them. So if you go to image trace, and then we'll try line art, and that hasn't worked. So we'll go to our image tracing window. Image tracing window, and then we'll change the threshold till we find something that works. I'm gonna have to change this. So custom to black and white logo. There we go. So this is just a really quick way to get a vector image from a pixel image. So if you've drawn something and you've exported it as a PNG, you can use image trace to really quickly, if it's a single color, really quickly get a vector version of that image. So we are going to go to black and white logo, and then just try and get this as smooth as possible. So we'll do that to the heart as well. Ignore the white, expand, and then change the colour on this so we can see it. And we'll do the same with our sun. Black and white logo, change the threshold, we'll get it right at some point, and then ignore white again. Expand that and change that colour as well. Cool, so we have our layers basically now, and what we need to do is we'll take these layers and we will export them as SVGs, which are scalable vector graphics. Now scalable vector graphics can be imported straight into Blender, and then we can expand them into meshes and use them to create 3D objects pretty quickly. So we're going to go do that. So let's go to File, Save As, SVG, and then find where you want to put them in the Assets folder. So this will be our layers, use artboards, save. Just copy all these settings, they seem to work for me. So save, OK, and this bit is done. Let's get on to Blender. Right, so Opening up Blender, starting a new scene and deleting everything in it will leave us here. I'll turn Keycaster on so you can see what I'm doing. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to File, Import, and Scalable Vector Graphics, and then we're going to import our layers. So I'm just going to show you here how to take our layers. We'll change the colours on these actually so we can see what we're doing. To take our layers and turn them into meshes. Now mesh, like when you get them, bring them in, they are curves. So Scalable Vector Graphics export as curves into Blender. So we're going to need to change these to meshes to work with. What I'm doing here is I'm just assigning new materials to these, otherwise they'll all stay the same color and all stay the same material, which is harder to work with because you can't really see what you're doing. So, and also they're all on the same plane because we don't have height in Illustrator. So we're gonna change the height on this, take that back a bit too, and that leaves us with a stacked object. And then we're going to select all of these, then tab into edit mode, join them, Command J, then tab into edit mode, create a new material. Let's choose a nice orange for this one, and then tab, select all, and then assign. And for some reason that's done the back one too. So we'll go to material preview. There we go. So it has worked. Right. So now these are all different colors and we can see what we're doing. So we need to go out from edit mode and then convert to mesh. Right click, convert to mesh. Right click, convert to mesh. Right click, convert to mesh. Now it's that simple to turn a scalable vector graphic into a mesh, which is what we use to work on the next bit with. We're going to move our object to the center. We can set our origin to the center of the scene, and that just means when we take it, the origin point of the 3D object is the point at which it rotates around. So that is quite important for when we take it into Spark. So if you've got a 3D object in Spark and it's rotating strangely, it could be that you've just not got the origin right. We'll take this down to the center point in our scene, right click, and then set origin, and then origin to 3D cursor, as our 3D cursor is already at the center of our scene. So if you look now, everything would rotate around the center point that we've just selected. Okay, so if we select our top object and go into tab, we can see that there are a lot of points there. And that is going to be very difficult to work with. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a Blender add-on called Quad Remesher. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and we're just going to work out the best amount of quads for us to use. So what this does is it takes our object and changes the topology of it to make it much easier to work with within Blender and within Spark. You'll just get much better results by using Quad Remesher. So as you can see, typically this one is not playing ball with us. You can see the topology on the eye is really messed up. So what we're going to probably have to do is we'll have to separate this object out and do it individually, just so we can get as much of it remeshed properly as possible and then find where the problems are. So what I'm doing here is I'm selecting by clicking on an object, pressing L, and that will select everything linked to it, and then I'm pressing Command P, and then what that does is it separates by selection, so everything selected will separate out into a different object. And then we're going to remesh each of these individually. So let's fast forward through this till we get to the eye. Right. And let's just try and remesh this, and we're still having the same issue here. Okay, so I think what we'll do is Command Z, separate out the heart and separate out the bottom bit. And let's mess with some settings here to see what fixes it. You will get issues like this with Blender, it's kind of unavoidable, so you've just got to muddle through as best you can. I'm not a born and bred 3D artist. I come from a 2D background, so there are multiple much better Blender channels on YouTube than this. I'm just showing you a quick and sort of dirty way to get 3D objects from your 2D animations and illustrations and take them into Spark AR. So what we're going to do here is we will go and delete some individual points and see if that helps. Nope, we will go to clean up and limited dissolve, and then we'll try remeshing it again. It's still messed up, but much less messed up. Let's change our viewing distance. Dissolve that vertices. Try and quad remesh again. And again, still messed up for some reason. Very messed up down the bottom. So what we'll probably do is we'll join some vertices to give it something to work with. Often that can give a guide to these add-ons are often algorithmically run, so by giving it a guide you can sort of indicate roughly like where the areas are that you want it to work with. So if you are having trouble, what I'm doing here is I'm joining some points so I can understand which bits of the shape should be joined to which other bits of the shape. So let's try again, and not bad, better. We can just do this the old-fashioned way now. Dissolve those, dissolve that, dissolve that. Join that. And then we can join up some of these other ones and dissolve others. Shift V will slide of the vertices along one of its axes, which is very handy. It really helps with keeping your topology at least remotely looking okay. I'll try remeshing it again and see what it looks like now. Perfect. So, bit twisty, but best we're gonna get that way. There we go, that's definitely usable now. So we'll finish doing the rest and smooth some bits out on the B. And then we'll move on to our... Okay, so that's all of our text done. We'll just remesh the heart, and that's worked really well first go. That's fine, we'll do that. And then onto our sun, which is going to be complicated. So we'll probably do what we did before, where we limited dissolve it first. That's the thing with limited dissolve, it can kind of just work as is, which might be what we end up doing here. Okay, so that hasn't really worked, so we're going to go with the limited dissolve version of this, and we'll leave it flat either side so the topology won't really affect it too much. So what we're going to do is we'll go into tab, into edit mode, and then we're going to press Command E, which is what we use to extrude. And extruding just means give it depth, so lift it from a 2D object into being a 3D object. So we will press Command E and then 0.04, something like that. And there you can see that that's basically a 3D object now. We'll do the same here with our heart, and what we'll do as well is we'll press Command R and we will add in some edge loops, because we'll want to round out the heart, I think. And then same here, so select all of those and then Command E, yep, and then same again, 0.5. So there you go. Now you've got 3D object. So what we're going to do with our text is we'll add in edge loops to all of these, I think, and we'll try and round off the top and bottom edges of them, just to make it seem like a little smoother around the edges, just to show you like a way to get slightly sort of smoother 3D objects so they're not just harsh square on either side. So let's forward through this and we'll add in our edge loops. Right, so we're going to select all of the top and bottom edges of our 3D object. We'll mark these as a seam. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to select everything inside of these by pressing Command L or L, and that will just select the inner parts, and it does the same for the bits around the edges as well. So if you select all of those, it will just select up to the seam and stop. Okay, so we're going to select all of these faces here, and then we're going to limit dissolve these. And what this means is we can then select our edge loop and press Command B, and what this does is it bevels the edge, so it'll smooth off the edge. If you go too far, it will obviously cause a few issues, so we're just going to bevel just a bit up until it starts to go crazy. And then if you scroll up and down on your mouse, or use 2 fingers to scroll up and down on a trackpad on a Mac, it will make the curve much smoother, so it'll add in edge loops around the curve. And what we're going to do is we'll basically go ahead and do this for all of our main edges on our text. There are a few fiddly bits in here because the text is a bit complicated for what we're trying to do here, but it all kind of works out the same. So what we're trying to do is just get a nice sort of smooth edge on all of the edges of our image here. Like I say, don't worry too much about this. All of the files from this tutorial will be in the links below, so you can go in and take them into Blender, have a look. I'll put the Blender file in. Go in and take them into Blender, have a look at them yourself. And if you want to have a look at the way that the vertices are, all you got to do is like select the bit you want and press Tab, and that will take you into edit mode, and you'll be able to see the view like this. But as I say, there are plenty of YouTube channels devoted to Blender. I would recommend starting with Blender Guru and the famous donut tutorial if you haven't already. It's how I got started, and I use Blender all the time now, so he's very good. Okay, so we're going to shade all that smooth. So what shaded smooth means is it tells Blender when it renders this to render it as a smooth set of faces. If you leave it as flat, you'll see each individual face as it is. And then we'll move on to our heart, and we'll do a very similar thing where we'll just bevel the edges and stretch the middle out a bit to make it a bit rounder. And then what we'll probably do is we will try and make this a bit deeper so it's a bit nicer looking. Cool, so we'll go at the side and then bring it up a bit, and then scale, origin to 3D cursor, scale, Z, and then we'll scale it by 2. So what that's doing is just scaling on the x-axis. And then we will select our middle ring and we'll scale that just by itself. We'll scale that out a bit so it's a bit rounder. And again, this just needs to be shaded as smooth, and then it'll be nice and smooth when we bring it into Spark. Okay, so finally what we're going to do is we're going to select all of the edge loops on these, like we've done on our previous object, and mark these as seams. And then we'll shade the top bit flat. And what we're going to do is we'll select the bottom one, mark seam, and then that allows us to select all of the faces around the edge by clicking our face select and then pressing L. and then we'll shade those as smooth. So, bit of a complicated illustration to start this with, but hopefully you get the idea of how to create a 3D object out of this. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you're getting anything valuable out of this video, it would be a real help to me if you'd hit the like and subscribe button, and then I can make more of these for you. Right, so we're going to select our text here, and we are going to, first of all, probably scale this up a bit, so it's a bit deeper, a bit taller, however you want to describe it. So let's bring it up a bit, nice, to about there. I think we'll probably have to get rid of some of these vertices, it seems quite heavy. We'll select linked vertices, so proportional editing, and what this does is it allows you to just pull the selected vertices up and anything linked to it. You'll have like a proportional fall off, so it'll edit most of the stuff around it but not everything. It's really handy, definitely something worth investigating when you play around with Blender. So bring that up a bit. Deal with a few of these sharper edges that you do get with shading stuff smooth, so all we've got to do is just select the offending edges, and then just if you go to right click and then smooth vertices, that'll help to bring it back a bit more in line with the vertices around it. So if we do that for all of the sort of popped out edges, we'll get them sorted, and then hopefully our 3D object will be ready to take into Spark. Right, so I've played around a bit with the materials here. You don't have to, and I've put in like a little plane in the background that we might take out. So we are going to export this now. So what we're going to do is we'll go up to File, Export. Then we're going to go to .glb, .gltf. Just these compress really nicely for Spark, and often mean that your eventual filter will be much smaller. So we'll fill those in and export those, and those are ready to go into Spark now. So we're going to open up a sharing experience, and the first thing we'll do is we'll save our file, 3D sticker volume 0, then we'll go to import from computer, and then we'll go and we'll get our 3D object that we just created. So that's going to be in assets. There we go, big O, import, perfect. And then this is our 3D object here, so we'll drag that straight into the scene so you can see everything's there, perfect. So everything that you saw in Blender, you are now seeing in Spark, so it's all there, and we'll just reorganize it in Spark, I think. So delete that off, and then what we're going to do is we are going to select a back camera, and we are going to add in a plane tracker, because that's what we're going to use for our 3D object. Like I say, sometimes you get a warning with your 3D object, but don't stress too much. You can always just check the performance on your device and see how it's doing. So we're going to create a plane tracker called a sticker. Then we'll add a null object into this. I spoke about in the last tutorial how handy these are, and we'll call this one sticker placer. Then we're going to drag our 3D object into that null object, and we'll probably delete that background off, I think. We'll bring it up a bit, bring the placer up a bit, and we'll scale it down a little bit just so we can see it in our window. So there we go. I mean, you can send this to your device now and have a look at it, see how it looks, see if you want to change anything before you get any further. But we'll rename this. So rename all of these to their corresponding 3D objects, just so we know what they are. That can go. Fast forward to all these, and then we're going to select all of these, and we'll probably bring these forward a bit, just so it separates out a bit better. and we'll take the background back a bit, I think. There we go. We've renamed all of our 3D objects, and now what we're going to do is we're going to start playing with the materials a bit. So the first thing we'll do is we'll select our material, make sure it's physically based, perfect. Then we're going to change the environment just because it's not doing much, take the roughness down. And so the roughness on a physically based object is literally, well, equates to roughness. Same with metallic. So what we're going to do is we'll change the colour on this a bit and bring the saturation up. Nice. I'll go to our red, but I don't think our red's on anything. Nope. So we'll go to our orange for our text. Would be helpful if I renamed those. So we'll take the roughness down on that and make it a bit brighter. Find a nicer hue and bring the saturation up. Nice. It's quite intense, but could work. That's better. Bring this up. There we go. Yeah, so you can just play around with the materials till you're happy with them. Like I say, all of the files will be in the description below, so you can go and have a look at the way I've set up these materials. For this one, we'll take the metallic right down on the heart, so it's a bit more plasticky. That's the best way I'd describe it. So if you take the roughness down, it'll be shiny. On metallic, if you take the metallic down, it's like a plasticky texture, and if you take the metallic up, it's obviously like a metal texture. So you can have a real good play around with those. So that's like a glossy plastic, which is pretty nice. The other thing you can do is go into the AR library and you can have a look through the environment textures. Now these will really change how your 3D object looks because the lighting on it is reflected lighting from the environment map that you choose. Now you can't see the environment around the filter, but your 3D object is reflecting light from that environment. So we'll go with Machine Shop, I think, for this one, because that's nice and bright and gets lots of nice highlights. Let's check it out in our simulator. Perfect. Okay, so I think that's materials done. So I think we'll go on to adding a bit of movement now. So the reason I've separated out all of the text is we'll probably move these all individually. So if you, first thing we're going to do is we'll do the background. So open up the patch editor. Then we will look for a pack node and we'll tick our rotation in our background properties. Now the pack node allows you to just change the rotation of one in one dimension. So we're going to want to spin our sun round, so we'll go with the Y, I think, for this one. So 0 to 360 to 0, we'll turn it round and round. So this is very similar to what we did in our 2D tutorial, which is the previous tutorial. Do go back and check that out if you haven't already. It really covers sort of a lot of what we've done here. Okay, so we'll copy this and then we'll do 20 minus 20, sinusoidal, quadratic, and go to our heart and then go and click on rotation, add that in, and speed that up a bit and take a mirrored. Great. Let's do the loop animation again. Looped. Exponential smoothing and randomize. 10 minus 10. So what we're going to do here is we're going to randomize the rotation for each of the letters so they appear to be moving individually. So let's start with our B, rotation. We're going to need a pack node. Perfect, just join that to that. And we'll tip these forward and backward. You can see how we were talking about the origin point before. Now the origin point obviously is in the center, and you can see the B is rotating around the center point there. And we'll slow that down, so we'll add make the smoothing quite a bit better. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste all of this for each letter, and we'll change some stuff. So let's fast forward through all this. So if you change the amount of exponential smoothing, that just means it's much quicker when it takes the randomized value to pass to the rotation value. The exponential smoothing just smooths that value out quite a lot, so you don't get like really jerky movement. And we'll duplicate these, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. And then we'll add them all into each letter. So now you can see that each individual letter is moving individually. As I couldn't decide on a colour for our text, we're going to take the saturation right down, and we will make the colour of the text animated. So what we're going to do is change this to a number, sinusoidal in and out, and we'll go colour space, and we'll change this from a HSV value, which is hue saturation value, not really sure, to RGB, and we'll need to use a pack node here. So HSV values are vector 4, so we'll change all the bottom ones to 4, and then as you can see, once we connect that up, that is flying through all the different colours, so we want to slow that right down to 20. We'll take the saturation down a bit as well, so it's not just burning everybody's eyes out. So when in the pack node, the way that the vector 4 works is the top one is hue, bottom one saturation, second one saturation, third one's the lightness value I think, and then the fourth one is the alpha value. So that's why we pass a vector 4 into the colour space there. And to test it, we'll send it to our Instagram. But that is basically done. I think we'll add a bit more movement to this as well. So we're going to add another loop, patch, and we'll go to our main object. We're going to move up and down. So select the main object and then select position, and then we will get it to float up and down from 0 to 0.4. See what that looks like. And we'll join the progress to progress, and then the value to the 3D position value. You'll have to excuse me, there's loads of idiots having a fight outside. So -2 to 0.2, sinusoidal in out, so it's nice and, yeah, it's got a bit low, 0.1, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, yeah, so it's nice and floaty. You can play with all of these different values yourself until you're happy with them, but let's go with that for now. And there we have it, an animated 3D sticker. Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If it was helpful to you, please hit the like and subscribe button, that really helps me out. You can always hit the notification bell as well to be notified whenever I upload a new one of these. We're going to have some more series coming up where we'll be covering some 3D fashion, and we'll be doing some Lens Studio stuff for Snapchat, so that'll be fun. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to cover in Spark. I have a lot of videos planned, but it'd be nice to know what you guys want to see. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and catch you in the next one. Bye.